Brian, the Republicans, they're coming for your.
I know that's hard for you to say, Tommy.
Going for the puns early here. Republican Senator Mike Lee, based Mike Lee on Twitter, he just introduced a bill that would make all pornography a crime. This is called the Interstate Obscenity Definition Act, IOTA. Good name. According to a report in Gizmodo, the bill would effectively criminalize all pornography nationwide by redefining what it means to be obscene to include basically all visual representations of sex. So the bill says, quote, a picture, image, graphic, image file, film, videotape, or other visual depiction of any media that appeals to the prurient interest in nudity, sex, or excretion would be considered criminal.
Okay, so a lot of questions here. First and foremost, there is reporting that this isn't going to stand up to any legal scrutiny.
It seems like it might be unconstitutional, but it's probably time for you to toss out that Game of Bones DVD that you've been hanging on to.
Not my Game of Bones DVD.
Your Missionary Impossible Blu-ray. You're shaving Ryan's privates. VHS.
We have to. The viewers have to know that you had much more time to prepare while I was doing something else.
I didn't buy the Da Vinci Load. That was you. In case people think I'm exaggerating, so Senator Clear has been very clear.
In case you think I'm exaggerating, I do have the Da Vinci Load on DVD and Blu-ray.
Senator Lee said the goal of this bill is to update the legal definition of obscenity for the internet age so this content can be taken down and its peddlers prosecuted. Now, you're right that a lot of experts in these stories think that Lee's proposal is blatantly unconstitutional, but we're not lawyers.
Right.
We don't pretend to be.
And also, I mean, just because something seems unconstitutional on its face doesn't mean that we haven't seen judges who are willing to go beyond the bounds of what the Constitution actually says. I mean, presidential immunity is not in the Constitution, but the Supreme Court has decided that it is. At the same time, we have Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which says that a president can't be reelected if he's engaged in or given aid or comfort to those who've engaged in insurrection. And yet, here we are. And so really, our laws are subject very much to the discretion of the judges whose job it is to enforce them.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court, they seem to like Trump.
They seem to like Trump. So, and this is a Supreme Court that is pretty far right, especially on issues like this kind of stuff. This very much falls into this Federalist Society, fasci, ultra conservative on domestic issues framework that they like to uphold.
Yeah, I mean, this was actually part of Project 2025,
right?
A proposal just like this. The lawyers are going to look at this thing. They're going to tell us if it's constitutional or not. But Brian, I want to talk about the politics because I think Democrats should talk about this. I think in the Trump era, we have become seen as the party that will scold you, that will tell you how to live, that will try to control what you do and say and how you spend your free time. And we need to remind people that this shit is what the Republican Party has always been about, telling you what you can do in your bedroom.
I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And my worry beyond all of that is that this isn't the kind of stuff that you do if you are worried about your prospects in an imminent election, right? Like this, you don't try and ban porn if you really want to give your party a good chance moving forward, especially if you're trying to preserve some of your advantage that you have with, young men, for example. And so my worry is that some of the stuff that Republicans are doing would suggest that they're not interested in prosecuting the case for 2026 or beyond, because this isn't something you do if you want to win elections moving forward. And so this kind of stuff where they've really lost the plot, where they're really going super far extreme on issues that are like, I would venture to guess this is an 80-20 issue, not in Mike Lee's favor. That's some worry comes from the fact that they're doing stuff that would defy all expectations for politics moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's probably like a reasonable middle ground that's designed specifically to protect kids. But this bill is apparently so poorly drafted that it could apply to your text messages or phone calls with just people in your life, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. And if you have a consensual sexual conversation with another adult, like that could potentially be criminalized under this. So I do think you're right about like the last election we saw, or over time we've seen this a lot, like young men becoming increasingly conservative.
Yeah.
And I think that was more about Trump than the traditional Republican Party. Like those men were not excited by things Mike Pence was saying.
Right.
No one was.
Yeah.
Not even Mrs. Pence. But I do think like they see Donald Trump and they don't view him as the kind of traditional hectoring social conservative. They view him as like the guy from The Apprentice, the guy who dates the supermodels, et cetera, and reminding them that like the Trump coalition comes with these people, the
Right.
fucking Mike Lees of the world, who are trying to go through your DVD collection and lock you up if they find a copy of,
Go for
Catcher
it.
in the Rear. I guess that'd be a book.
Well, look, I think that this will be especially potent because now it's not just that, okay, you have to stomach these people while you get Trump, and really Trump wields the coalition how he wants anyway, and so if he doesn't want this, then he's not going to get this. Whatever Trump says is what goes. But Trump is term limited out, at least in theory, right now in 2028, and so without the benefit for these Republicans of Donald Trump, what they're left with, that becomes the whole meal, is just these weird Christo-fascist Mike Lees whose legislative priority is to make sure that you can't have access to porn in a country that beats its chest as like, the beacon of freedom in the world.
Or contraception.
Or contraception, right.
Or any other social services or social safety net. Yeah, if you don't want J.D. Vance to one day take away your copy of Star Wars, you don't want to vote Republican. If you really want to watch Jurassic Park over and over again, you should tell your friends about this. We need to get like the kind of barstool Republicans to know that this could be on the horizon. It's a real piece of legislation introduced by a top supporter of Donald Trump. And by the way, the Republican coalition is like, when you dig into it, it is completely fractured and incoherent and makes no sense. You've got Mike Lee, like literally telling you how to live your life. And then you have Donald Trump pardoning the founder of Silk Road, this guy, Ross Ulrich, I think is his name, who, ran the Silk Road site, that dark website where you could buy drugs, you could buy porn, I'm sure you could get prostitutes, you could get a hitman, like, do God knows what. So, like, the libertarian side of the Republican Party and the right-wing Christians telling you how to live, they're not going to get along forever.
Right, and to the earlier point, I mean, the only thing that ties this whole coalition together is the fact that Donald Trump is the common denominator here. But once we're done with Donald Trump, it's going to be all of these competing factions who, on one hand, are perfectly content to do apologia for sex traffickers. I mean, Donald Trump almost named Matt Gaetz, who was an accused trafficker, to the top of the DOJ. And then on the other side, you have people like Mike Lee who want to criminalize all of this. So there will come a point where without Donald Trump wielding this unwieldy coalition, things are going to get messy fast.
Yeah. So if you want to see Honey, I Blew Everyone in theaters, vote Democrat.
And on that note, make sure to subscribe for more.
More of this.
More of this.
Whatever this was. We got to beat the right wing on YouTube because they got much bigger accounts and they got all the good clicks.